Welcome back for another book review. I am here for the final book from Doughty. This is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory. You need to go get this book. Okay, well maybe like if you're not death curious, this is not for you. But like, I just feel like everybody needs to read this at some point in their lives because it's so good. Now, I will say this is definitely the most somber out of her books. Like, she started off, because this is her first one, so she started off very, like, somber, serious. She still has a little bit of humor here and there, but it's pretty serious. And then the next one's like, oh, let's relax a little bit. And then her third book is fun and humorous and still informative. But this one's kind of the opposite of her third one. This is pretty serious. It is her story as she got into the funeral industry, working at a crematorium, and how her vision of wanting to change the death industry changed after actually working it. So I read this because I needed to have some answers answered for my own death book that I'm working on. It will be coming out at some point in August of this year. It is The Death Journey. That one's coming out soon. And this is part of my, like, research of, like, I needed to make sure I had the stuff known because, like, it's just one of those things, like, you kind of vaguely remember stuff, but then you're like, did I though? Am I just making that up? So I had to, like, reconfirm with the books, such as, like, when does decomposition begin? Because I feel like I don't remember the timeline exactly. And then she reiterated it for me and it was like, cool, that's what I thought. Thank you. And so there's just a few things, like, I read this as part of my homework for my book. I had to finish it before I finished my book, just to be sure. There's a few things that I wanted to make sure I adjusted, and like the verbiage and stuff, because I'm like, how do you describe the bones after you're cremated? And it's like, it's inorganic material. Cool, thank you, Caitlin, because I know there was a word to be like, well, it's not human, but like, it's also not actually ash. It's somewhere in between the two. It's inorganic material. So like, it's just, it was such a good book. It's super interesting because like some of her things, it's like, it's so interesting. Like, first of all, like there are some stories in here that will live with me forever. The one where I don't want to spoil it, but like there's one that involves a bucket, and I think it was the door or something was having conniptions after the crematory owner dude decided to do them a favor and resurfaced everything, and then it went horribly wrong. That story, it's so terrible, but God, it made me laugh so bad, because it's like just imagining the sheer horror of that happening, and you're just like, how the fuck? Like, you have to laugh at it, otherwise you'd go crazy. And like, just hearing the stories of like how she's trying to, like, the social anxiety that she went through, we can all appreciate, I think, where she's like awkward on like her first body retrieval thing, you know, picking up the person to take them back and being like, I could tell she was a good person, and you're like, how the fuck? And she's like, I'm just, shut up, it's fine. And like bringing her giant gurney thing to pick up the babies and being like, this was a really over-exaggerated thing, wasn't it? And he's like, yeah, the other dude just brings a box. Cool, I'm committed. This is great. Like, it's so good. And yes, it is super morbid, obviously. But it's one of those things where it's like, in America specifically, we are so removed from death. Like, she talks about that a lot in all of her books and on her channel. But if you don't know, ask a mortician. And she talks about it, and it's like, we are so removed. More often than not, we have a very clean experience with death. Like, we don't really get to see decomposing bodies that often. The average person probably won't ever. And like, you don't, like, seriously, when we become rainbows, she talks about that. Where you're like, oh, you're orange as a traffic cone, and the family wants to see you. Okay, like, just, it makes me really glad I didn't go into that field. I don't think I could do that. I know I could not handle being an embalmer because that is horrifying. Please don't do that to me. Like, it goes into a lot of detail. Let's leave it at that. It goes into a lot of the detail of some stuff that has to happen in an embalming situation that makes me uncomfy to think about that happening, because you're just like, ugh. But overall, like, this is just, it's such a good book. If you are ever curious on the topic of death, you need to read this book along with her other ones, watch her channel. And I thought again, I love the idea of how she was going to change the death industry one way and then went like a polar opposite direction after having experienced it and been like, you know what? No, actually, that's not it. And again, the humor in this, like, a hot bone shard she's getting out of the machine, accidentally steps on it or it lands on her or something, and just like instinct kicked in and kicked it, and she's like, damn it. It has to go find it to go add it into the cremulator thing. Like, it's sad and heavy, but at the same time it's funny. She's just got such a interesting combo of personality. Like, she's got this fun, bubbly, hilarious personality, and then she's working with death. Like, it's a very odd combo, but it works so good. You need to go get all of her books. I plan to get copies of all of these. I have the audio versions of them. She reads them. It's fantastic as well. But the same with her writing. You can just tell her voice coming through. Like, it's just such a good book. She's a fantastic writer and just overall person, like the way she talks and speaks and teaches. Like, she's just very good at what she does. Let alone, I'm sure her funeral home is phenomenal, clear out in California, and what she's doing with the death industry as a whole. Like, she is out there actively pushing for death reform and to, like, give us options, like human composting. She's been pushing for that in a lot of states. That'd be cool to see come here in Utah. We just only recently in the past, what, like 5 years, got aquamation available. So, like, she's doing a lot, not just in her own little funeral home, but across the nation. Like, she's just a good person, basically. This is just a promo for her, apparently, so do yourself a favor, go check out her channel, as well as all of her books. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day. Also, make sure to check out my blog. That's where you can find all of my content, including my upcoming witchcraft book. It is The Death Journey. That is my book coming out in August, if you want to check it out. It is a practical guide to handling death as a witch. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.